ahead and get started. So I'll call this meeting to order and we'll do a quick roll call. It looks like everyone is present except for John Marriott. I believe he's calling in.
It's not online yet.
Not online yet. We're still 30 seconds early, so.
And let you know if you're doing.
Yeah, you can let me know. We can keep it rolling. So moving on to approval of minutes for the August 13th meeting, I will entertain a motion unless there's any questions or comments on that.
So moved.
All right, moved and seconded. All approve on the all approve of the approval of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, that is approved. We have public comment next, so this will be 3 minutes per speaker. Looks like we have one signed up and probably one online. So we'll go ahead and get started. I think you're the only one.
Right, it looks like last on the agenda, so, but that's okay, that's fine. My name is Deborah Bose. I live in downtown Superior. I'm a Marshall Fire victim, as are many of my neighbors, families, and friends. I'm a scientist. I collect data. And so I'm not here to complain about noise. That's not my issue. You can fly over my house all day long, make your noise. My biggest issue for myself, the families, the children in the neighborhood, the sports teams that play in our hockey fields, soccer fields, and our indoor facilities, of which there'll be about 20,000 people in my neighborhood at any given time in a small area. I live in downtown Superior. So part of the data I collect is the frequency of flights over our neighborhood. High density, 20,000 people, children, families in this small area. 5 miles by 5 miles. Check it out, you haven't been there. The rate, frequency of planes, small, I'm not talking about jets, I'm not talking about helicopters, I'm talking about small propeller planes, flying low, buzzing our houses. You can see them, we can read their tail numbers. The rate is 15 to 30 an hour, from 5:30 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon, maybe 3 when the clouds come up. And we pray for the clouds because it slows the frequency. And then it picks back up till 11 o'clock at night. Again, there are sports teams, there are kids, there are families, people working from home in this neighborhood. Our issue is safety. We've been victimized by a fire, 1,100 families in this area. Now we're victimized by the safety of the potential. And if you think about statistical probability, the higher frequency of low flying propeller planes over this high density neighborhood by 5 miles, the probability there'll be an accident is very high. Frequency of planes, probability of accident. It's not rocket science. I'm a biologist. I can chart that. That would be devastating for your business. I have my own business. Revenues and profits are important. This is not about, reducing your profits or revenues. What I'm asking is there a possibility in these wide open spaces in Boulder County that we can divert flights away from the frequency? I'm not saying no planes. We're fine with flights coming over. Nobody's going to complain about 10 or 15 an hour or a day, but 20 an hour? Is that what you want to happen? Is that the reputation you want your airport to have? Is an accident taking out 100 people, kids and families in this neighborhood because of the frequency, not the fact that you fly over our houses, not the noise. The probability of an accident would be catastrophic for you, catastrophic for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Okay, we have Randy Johnson online, request to make public comment, and I'll note for the record, John Marriott joined us as well, so he's online. All right, Randy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Randy.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah, actually, a screen pops up on the screen. Yeah, hi. This is Randy Johnson from Lavers. For people who don't know, I live south of Chatfield, between Rocky Mountain and Colorado Springs. Uh, and I normally give plane numbers. I counted 511 planes, basically training planes. I heard basically 511 training planes this month, a little bit more than last month. I submitted 73 complaints to Centennial and 5 to Rocky Mountain. What was happening is some of the planes from Centennial were flying and turning and flying directly over Lavers, which has been a continuous problem. So obviously you can see it's getting a little worse. Then I think that I contact Centennial, they contact the flight schools, and they get better because obviously we have new pilots coming in. I do want to mention I have had some planes from Rocky Mountain flying lower and faster, so they're louder. That's I think what those complaints were. It's sort of sporadic when they do that. Also, it's interesting now that I do have quiet nights from Rocky Mountain, where in the past they were coming over regularly, almost every night. So some nights I get a few. Basically, when I say nights too, the planes fly over, during the day, but at night I think they're trying to get their night hours, or night time to go south, between locations. One thing I want to mention, I did get the email from, can't read my writing here, from Rocky Mountain on the feedback email. I think I got a first one of those. I think you've started doing those. I just wanted to let you know that I did receive one also. And I think I'll keep it short. Hopefully, I think that's it for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. All right, anyone else for public comment? No. Anyone else online, Ben?
No.
All right. Move on to business items. Eric?
That's me. In the past few months ago or more, we brought to you the Southwest Development Area. We were discussing whether or not to do a letter of interest or an RFP for that site for development. The discussion at that point in time was to go through an RFP process. And so the purpose of this presentation is to walk you through what that RFP process will look like, provide you a rough timeline of what that RFP would look like, and try to answer any particular questions you might have as we go through the slides. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the RFP really is to have an open and competitive request for proposals that are aligned with both the airport's layout plan and master plans, scored on both jobs, site efficiency, compatibility, sustainability, and financial terms to ensure the highest and best use of this area. The next slides will go through kind of the history of this presentation or this area of development and how we can try to help ensure that the highest and best use is used for this area. Go ahead. So what is the Southwest Development Area? Just as a recuperator, it's about 90 acres between Calendar Drive and Sims, and it has been approved by the FAA for airport expansion consistent with all airport master plans. On the right side is an image which shows where the VOR is located, as well as taxiway Kilo and Lima, and you can see Pilatus there as well. And there's a north arrow kind of to orientate the general location. About 120 acres total, with about 35 acres additional included in that 120, should the VOR ever be decommissioned. For the Southwest Development Area, we are still seeing continued interest in hangar development here at the airport. When I put this slide together, which was a couple months ago at this point in time, we had about 596 requests for aircraft hangars on the airport. That is individual requests and not duplicates. Generally what happens is, since we have 3 different types of hangars on the airfield, people will enter the wait list for each one. And so rather than duplicating that entry, that 596 at that time was individual requests. And you can see on the top right, the different types of hangars we have between the 39-foot, the 41-foot, and the 55-foot, along with how many requests we have for that specific unit, and then how many of those units we have. So we have 596 requests for hangars, and we have 116 hangars on the airfield that we keep track of. We still have development or interest in meeting the market demand for a cross-section of different types of hangars. And one of the reasons the Southwest Development Area becomes a necessity for us is the north side of the airport is built out. There is no more developable space on the north side. Save some space that's reserved for shop there, for some large corporate hangars to get, or large FBO hangars to get built there in the future. Next slide, please. From a historical perspective, the Southwest Development Area has been talked about quite a bit. From the 1960 master plan, they showed it in kind of an abstract with a few little hangars. In 1980, the southwest side was expanded with a third runway with interior hangar developments. That continued in 88, the third runway and some hangars on the outside. And then in 2000, they removed the third runway and allocated area for hangar expansion on the southwest development side. And then in 2011, it was further refined as part of the southwest development area for road relocations and a possible parkway development should that parkway ever get built. So the Southwest area has always been part of the airport's plans, but in 2021, the strategic business plan laid out what a potentiality for that could look like. That was included in the category exclusion for taxway O and D, but in this case, about 44 hangars are shown. This is all conceptual. The actual layout of the site was conceptualized back then in 2021, but even today it would be driven by market demand, and we couldn't tell you exactly what the area would look like. Next slide. In 2025, the FAA asked us to do a revision to the airport layout plan related to Pilatus. And so as part of that, the FAA asked us to revisit that site and think about what that might look like in a more concrete way. So this is where we have the RFP that sits today with the 2025 revised layout plan. Once again, it's illustrative. There's no way to know what this area would look like. It's based on market demand for both maintenance of repair organizations, corporate hangars, private hangars, and T hangars. But conceptually, this is what we kind of think a mix might look like between corporate, GA, and MRO expansion. In that map also is the location of Pilatus, the VOR, BA group sites, and then the Broomfield water tanks, just for scale and size. Go ahead.
What is BA Group, excuse me?
BA Group is a development on the airport. They are looking to expand and build a third FBO here on the airport. Okay, so you're here. Where is, okay, no, that one. Like I said, market demand will determine what this site will actually look like, and it could take many years for this to be completed. It could take anywhere from never be fully completed to 30 years to 5 years. It's hard to know what that demand would look like, but our goals are really to figure out how we use this site for the highest and best use for the airport and for the region as a whole. But yeah, it could take a while. And then once again, that map shows where the boundaries of the RFP are, where Pilatus is located, taxiway Kilo and Lima, and the water tanks. Next slide. Once we've gone through the RFP, and we've developed what we think of the land we can, it'll be up to the FAA to determine how we proceed with that process, whether the VOR is decommissioned and we expand, or in some of that green area where they don't show hangars, whether that will be non-aeronautical property, such as a Wendy's or a gas station or whatever it might be. We don't know today, but that green area could be expanded in the future. Once again, illustrative only, there's no way to know what that area will actually look like. Go ahead. Back when we did the taxway O and D category exclusion, we looked at what operations might increase from this area based on current use. The goal of this Southwest Development site is not to repeat what we currently do at the airport. So it's not about trying to figure out how we max or match current fleet mixes. But if we did, it would increase operations at the airport about 35,000 operations, and it breaks down the kind of flights of aircraft based on the area equivalence model or the AEM model that was used to do that. The goal is not to repeat. The goal is to differentiate and find highest and best uses across the airport and for the region, and not to match existing uses. But worst case, about 35,000 employments is what, or operation is what they're thinking they could increase by. Go ahead, next slide, please. As part of operations, the category exclusion also looked at the area equivalence model for noise impacts for this area. When that was ran, they ran it using annual numbers, which led to a misleading amount in baseline square miles for the DNLs. When we run that for daily, you can see the bottom table, which shows the corrected impacts for the AEM model of what that noise impact might look like. If we use the current model and we use the current fleet mixes that we currently operate today for that new area, it would be about 4.1% increase in the square miles of the DNL for the 65 DNL. But we won't know what that DNL actually looks like until we have the Part 150 study done, and that will be the noise exposure model that you guys will see hopefully next year. We haven't seen it yet, but we think next year we'll have NEMs to show, and Ben will give an update on that later as part of his project updates. Go next slide, please. From an airport revenue perspective, the total square footage of that site might contribute about $2.8 million to the airport's budget when it's at full capacity. Generally, the airport doesn't rent the entirety of the area. We generally will end up with about 60% of the site leasable. The rest of it would be things like taxiways, margins, safety areas, things like that that you can't rent. So at the end of the day, at full complete in today's dollars, it's about $1.7 million that airport revenue would increase at the full site of that. Once again, we don't know what it looks like. It'll be part of the RFP to determine what that is. But go ahead. From an economic development perspective, when they did the economic study in 2025, they came up with the airport at about 5,000 jobs, indirect and direct, that the airport was generating. If we develop the Southwest development site correctly, and we think about how that regional impact is in jobs, we'd hope to be able to increase the number of jobs in the region through that development process, and increase also payroll, median pay, and then value added and business revenue are all there on the site and in the slides. But as much as the airport is an economic driver, we hope to figure out how to do the RFP in a way that we can attract businesses to the airport that will increase those numbers and its economic vitality. Next slide. Back when we had this original conversation about letters of intent versus RFP, we discussed for quite a while what would be better for us, whether we took an LOI as sort of an ad hoc development initiative, or if we did an RFP to try to control what development looked like. And all this table does is try to explain what the difference in those two and how they would benefit us. It really repeats the purpose of the RFP and why we did it. You know, we really are trying to figure out how we can score development, how we can prioritize different development, how we can have an open competitive process that ensures Southwest development side really develops the way that we kind of hope, and how that highest and best use is, rather than ad hoc. We really want to try to avoid situations where developers come to us with their ideas and we go for that. We're really trying to figure out how we not compete them against each other, but select proposals that really benefit the airport and the region as a whole. Next slide. From the 2021 strategic business plan, a matrix was developed on how to kind of score developments in the area and how we would prioritize those. Really, the priority is try to figure out what leases we can develop on the airport that will have development the most leasehold acreage with the least airport cost. Things that have compatible land use and noise operational profiles, things that don't fly every day, things that don't have the frequency of the training flights, things that are like MROs where the planes would fly in, get serviced, and then fly out months or weeks later. Things that focus on sustainability or environmental practices such as solar, sustainable aviation fuels, unleaded fuels, things like that. And then really about what kind of jobs are created are things that we're looking at about how we would score these RFPs against each other, so that we can try to figure out what the best proposals are for this site. Next slide, please. So here's kind of a rough timeline of where we're thinking about for this RFP. It is a drawn out process to ensure that we can solicit good proposals from the industry as a whole, and to work with our regional economic development corporations too, to try to figure out how we work with the regions on economic vitality. We are sitting at the second row on this, present the RFP to the AAB. Next, we'll present the RFP to the Board of County Commissioners. We'll finalize the RFP about January, and then it won't be until April 2027 where you would actually probably see a lot more happening with this RFP process. It is designed to solicit and figure out how we best use, so we're not accepting just one-off proposals. We're trying to figure out how best to utilize that site. This is tentative. It is a speculative timeline. It's not necessarily fixed in time. Certainly these dates are malleable. They may change, but the goal is to figure out how we have a collection period as long as reasonable to solicit the proposals that we can get for the maximum benefit of the airport, for the region, and for those businesses themselves. Next slide. This isn't the first time we've tried to do an RFP on the airport. I can't say all, maybe all, but a good wide portion of the RFPs the airport's done, we have not actually had a bidder come through the RFP process. Normally it followed with an LOI. That certainly is a possibility here. If that happens, we need to make sure that for the letters of intent that we do get as part of this proposal process, that we try to figure out who's shovel ready, who actually can benefit the airport and the region the most, limit the kind of developments that come in, try to zone the airport in a way where we are having good MRO mix with good corporate mix with good business mix. And then we'll come back to you too about what the proposals that we've received as part of this LOI process, so you can see kind of what that development looks like on the airport as part of, if there was an LOI process that followed it. You certainly would be included with the RFP process in the timeline too, so you'll have more information to see this later. But for now, next slide, I can solicit any questions you might have about that timeline, about the RFP process as a whole, or any other questions you might have about the Southwest Development Area. Yes, sir.
Eric, I'm a little unclear, I guess. Looking at the map, it's showing a hangar build out and the need for that.
Yes, sir.
It seems like that's sort of mutually exclusive with RFPs for other types of business. It didn't look like there was a place for both. I'm a little unclear on what.
Certainly. Can you go back to the tiny slide that has the 225 ALP on there?
I mean, is the intent to put hangars there? Is the intent to have businesses or both, or?
Yeah, certainly. So it's a good question. We'll have to have a mix of pretty much everything. It's about trying to find the balance between those things. So in this map here, up on the top facility, that would be on the west side of the airport, is sort of MRO facilities, large corporate maintenance facilities, things like that. Across from Pilatus are more potential Pilatus expansion areas as well for more MRO type facilities. Pilatus has shown an interest in expanding their facilities here at the airport. And so that accounts for maybe some of their development here at the airport as well. And then there is a mix of single engine aircraft hangars there as well, with smaller and larger business aviation hangars. This concept is a sketch that the FAA is requiring us to do as part of the ALP update to show something. It isn't indicative of what actually will be built there. So when development comes along and as we see proposals for developments as part of a response to the RFP, this will look different. It could be fundamentally different. It's a matter of the FAA says, what do you think the mix might look like? And this is kind of what we think it might look like as a concept of uses, not as like a layout. We don't know what the layout would ultimately look like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So as a follow-up, does it make sense to designate a certain percentage that's going to be available for hangars? Or is that all going to be sort of led by how many RFPs might come in, or how many, you know what I'm saying? In other words, if there's going to be hangars, do they get kicked out by other businesses who, have RFPs that they present? And should there be perhaps a percentage of the area that is designated for hangars, since it appears from the other slide that there's a pretty good need for that as well?
Certainly. So this has 1, 2, 3, I think 8, right? 1, 2, 3 rows. 8 rows of T hangars. That's, if those actually were built, that's a pretty significant number of single engine aircraft fit in that box. Our goal is not necessarily to grow single engine aircraft. It's to try to figure out how we meet niches and economic development that we don't currently meet. And what we've seen from developers who come to us is a mix of small to medium-sized jet traffic hangars. There are a number of developers who would like to build single engine hangars in the airport, but it's not necessarily the thing we're trying to aim for here. We're trying to figure out how we develop in the more support industry rather than the directly flying aeronautical business. But to your point of, is it appropriate to set a percentage by? We have not considered a thought about like having 50% of it be this type or 25% be this other type. We want to really see what the proposals are and then figure out if that makes sense for the kind of the goals we're looking for here. Would you be saying that you want a certain percentage, or what, I guess, is your
It
comment?
just seems like it would make sense. I mean, if that's a need,
Mhm.
you know, that we identify, whatever that percentage is. And otherwise, it seems like you run the risk of, well, geez, we get these great proposals for some great businesses, and
Mhm.
which is a good thing. But then eventually we say, well, you know, those are pretty lucrative and there's no room for hangars.
Yeah, I think we run the fear of doing that the other way too. Like, we do have a number of developers who would only want to build single engine hangars. And so we've had a number of firms that come to us and say, hey, we want to build like hangar capacity of 144 aircraft. And we have to think to ourselves, is that the appropriate use of the space? Is it better to use that 90 acres for just single engines, or is there a mix that works over there? And how do you configure it? In this case, that could be 80 single engine aircraft that ever got built, but the focus isn't on single engine. It's trying to figure out how we build and expand the airport and support rather than directly flying traffic.
And I think I had a comment question along the lines of John. There's a limited amount of land space
Mhm.
that the airport has. How are you thinking about the best way to maximize that space? I think the RFP makes sense versus an LOI on that. But to John's point, how do we more control the way we maximize space in order to kind of capture some of the single engine market versus the MRO and really diversify the airport? Because I could see, for example, maybe an RFP comes in with like two giant hangars for a new manufacturing company. Is that the best use of that space? And going back to that highest and best use slide, are there different weightings to those categories, or is it just kind of the general guidelines that you're looking at?
Well, I'd have to refer back to the actual RFP to determine how they were weighted. Ben, do you remember like how that was done?
I think we still have flexibility on how we attach final weighting to each of the scores, but there is a draft one. But yeah, to that point, that's one way we can do it, is weighting of the different factors when the RFP goes out, because we have to publish exactly how we'll score it in the RFP. And then the other part of the RFP is we'll request like a conceptual development. And there's also a big disclaimer in there about like, we reserve the right to award it to nobody or multiple parties. And we reserve the right to work with all the parties to kind of mutually agree on leaseholds that work for everyone and work for the airport. So I think in the end, it's not like they give us our proposal and we say, yep, we'll take you. It's gonna be a negotiation no matter what.
And I think from what I saw in the slides, we can more easily tell the demand for a single engine smaller hangars
Yeah.
based on the wait list. It's harder to tell the demand for larger, from what I can see, hangars, but how do we
Yeah, I guess
like
the one.
diversify that mix?
I suppose the one response to that is the airport's not going to be building 596 single engine hangars.
Yep.
I mean, that's just not practical. It's not a good use of space. I would imagine there may be some community pushback to that expansion. So it's really about how do we use the space in a way that not only meets our aeronautical needs and our aeronautical mission, but how do we be a good neighbor too and say, okay, yeah, there might be demand for 596 single engine airplanes today, but who knows what that future looks like. And as real estate, we're never going to want that wait list to be zero. There's always going to be pent up demand, period, just in order to ensure that if someone leaves, there's someone to take the next spot. So it's not 500 hangars, it's not 600 hangars. It's how do we use the space in an aeronautical way that is beneficial for everyone rather than just 596 people that want a hangar. And so that's the balance there. And to John's point, like there's a percentage there that might make sense, but like that layout already has space for 80. And so is that enough? Is it too many? That's a different question, but the priority isn't to meet this necessarily waitlist demand. It's how do we figure out how that waitlist demand fits into an overall comprehensive picture that accommodates a different type of growth. You can't say, we're never having T hangers, we're not going to have T hangers. That's not something you're allowed to say. But what we can say is, yes, we can accommodate T hanger growth, but we're focusing on this other thing, not that part, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think that's well thought out. Any other question?
Who ultimately decides what happens
For like the selection of proposals for the RFP? Or site development, or what do you mean?
Well, you sound very flexible right now.
Yeah,
And so first, I don't have any idea what you, as the airport manager,
Mhm.
would ideally like to see happen on
Mhm.
this land.
that's fair.
And second, I don't know who decides in the end if you do end up with more than one proposal and they are drastically different or even, significantly different. Who
So-
decides?
So I suppose the blunt answer would be I do. And then the follow-up would be that the Board of County Commissioners would be the ultimate authority on a lease that happens there. So that would happen, I would presume would happen is when those proposals come in, we'll look at those, we'll come back to the Airport Advisory Board, show you what we received, show you what we think, how the pieces fit together, if they even fit together. And then that would be your solicited advice as to what that looks like. And then we would either award or deny them based on that feedback. And then this proposal then would have to go back to the BCC as to what that final package of things looks like. It could take a while for that to be put together. It's not something that's going to be instantaneous, and it'll be a slow, methodical process to what that actually looks like. It's not first come, first serve, whatever we get, we get. That's not the way this is meant to be, not the way that we hope to do this or will do it. It's supposed to be a methodical process of these are the proposals received, these are the kind of uses we're looking for. And if we don't get a use for that type of thing, like let's say we only got proposals for single engineer hangars. We don't have to, as Ben said, we don't have to award all of those. We can think critically about what that looks like. Part of it is an airport design perspective prerogative. And one of the reasons that the FAA kind of asked us to kind of look at what that conceptually looks like is to say, you're going to have people that are going to come to you first to say, I want that land because it's closest to the runway, it's closest to taxiways, it's flat, it's prime real estate. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a good spot to put that. So there'll be a lot of give and take with the proposals. And it does sound malleable and it does sound kind of flexible because we don't know, and I don't know what kind of responses we'll get for the proposals. And once we do get them, we'll have a better understanding of how all these pieces fit together.
You do have the ability to be the one who significantly, you're going to be molding the character of this airport over the next 5 or 10 years. And you replaced a guy who didn't do that very well.
Well,
And so I'd really like to know your ideal description of what could be here, because
well, I guess to be fair, I did approve the drawing that is in that ALP. That 2025 ALP drawing is something that I approved. To me, it seems like a good use, a mix of both MRO facilities. It seems like a good mix of corporate and medium traffic. It seems like a good mix of small aircraft additions. To me, the way that's laid out makes sense to me. The number and types of use makes sense to me. The land site access so that you can drive to your hangar rather than driving on the airfield itself makes sense to me. There are a lot of things in that drawing, in that concept that I think are good. I don't necessarily have negatives about it, but once again, it's an illustrative concept. And so like, I suppose to be fair, if we see proposals that come in to look like that, that would seem appeal to me. But ultimately, I'm not going to do that just in the cloak of darkness and say, I'm going to do this. It will come back to you and you'll see, and I will explain to you why I do what I do. It's not going to be in the silence.
well, I happen to think that the drawing you approved is an excellent idea. I hope that we go in that direction.
Well, we're looking for the highest and best use. The map is illustrative. It may be idealistic, but that's the cross section of the use that I guess I'm looking.
Great.
Any other questions?
I do. Given the ESTs are somewhere along the line of their, close to their end of life, or their useful life, Fort Collins definitely got rid of a bunch of hangars because they reached their end of life. Evacuated or evicted all the tenants of those hangars. this area that's being developed is the last really flexible space to allow for a flex to do both the south and the east T side. And I'm kind of wondering if there's not a consideration for the longer picture of, okay, if we're going to be doing something on the south side, box ourselves in, how are we going to do work on the east T side of things now that we no longer have the space to be able to do anything there with the tenants that are currently in those locations? So I'm thinking longer picture rather than just the development of just the west side. And maybe that west side is the key to how we modernize or bring up to code the east T side of things. Just a question on that.
All right, I'm going to say, we're not supposed to solicit questions and comments from the audience.
And I apologize.
And I've heard what you've said. You're more than happy to email me and tell me it again, but I've conceptualized my brain. And I can provide an answer to you should you email me that question.
Okay.
But for decorum.
No, and I apologize.
Yeah, sorry, I allowed it, so.
How much do we know about Centennial and Front Range plans?
So Centennial has Sky Harbor building new hangars down there along the Crosswind runway. They have a number of acres of open development south of their air traffic control tower. I don't know what necessarily their plans are for that site or how they're going to develop it. You'd have to talk to Mike and see what they're thinking down there.
And Front Range?
CFO. I know that McAir and the flight schools are trying to start satellite operations over there. I'm not familiar with what their master plans look like or what their growth looks like. But I know they're accepting, let's call it push out for the lack of a better word. And you'd have to talk to Jeff and see what their plans are. I don't specifically know what their master plans are.
Can I add to that? I just happen to know that Centennial Flyers just bought quite a large fleet of electric single engine planes. FYI.
But where are they gonna put them?
Centennial.
I know that in our conversations about electric aircraft, we've like McAir has bought a tentative deals with electric aircraft as well. It will be a matter of seeing them become commercially available. I know Centennial had electric one fly through there and they tested the decibel difference. I can't speak to accuracy as to what that decibel difference was, but I guess there was a decibel difference. And I know McAir has shown interest in purchasing electric aircraft when they're available. So it's out there and kind of is a good lead in to our next topic, really, if that is acceptable.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you, and I know this is an important topic for the airport in general. I guess is the expectation for the RFP, as you get RFPs, you'll bring them to the advisory board or to solicit?
That would not be done until the proposal period is over.
Okay.
So it will be a while, so you'll see
All right,
everything.
good to know.
And I guess I want to level set there that we'll have to work with Jeffco purchasing because it's supposed to be a confidential submission process. I'm not sure exactly what the model will look like in terms of how we bring them forward in the end. Okay, but we'll work that one out.
All right.
I mean, you could potentially have somebody that wants the whole 90 acres.
We probably have people today that would take all 90 acres and build single engine airplanes there if we let them.
I was thinking more in terms of a major.
Certainly, there has been conversations with different developers who've talked about the need for MRO expansion in the West. With like, if you think about Duncan Aviation is a large MRO based in Lincoln, Nebraska. You know, they're always looking at different options. Flying Tigers is always looking at different options. So there are MRO options out there that would make sense for that area. So we've had a mix of different developers who are interested in the site from a different cross section of lots of different uses. It really will be coming down to who actually submits proposals and how those pieces come together.
All right, thank you. Unleaded fuel transition.
Okay, this is actually going to be really short. Next slide. So on January 1st, 2026, the airport is required by House Bill 24-1235 to submit an unleaded fuel transition plan. That plan in its first draft is in your packet. I am not gonna read the whole thing to you. It is not, an entertaining read, but it is informative, it is educational, it is a requirement of the House bill, and also good due diligence on our part. So, please go forward, read that. Please provide comments back to me in, I guess, 15 days or so. And, I will try to work on implementing anything that you provide me into the next revision. And then we'll see whether or not that's close enough to get ready for submittal, or if it has to come back for more review for the Airport Advisory Board. It is due January 1st. I don't know what the meeting schedule looks like for December, so we should have this wrapped up by the November meeting, just to make sure that we're good to go for the submission of the deadline. But please read it, please provide comments, please email me with your thoughts, and that's it. And it's all there in the packet, so please read, please.
Right, we keep rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. On to project updates. So if you've been over onto the south side of the field, you might have seen dust flying into the air. Hopefully not too much. We try and keep that under control, but construction has started on Kilo and Delta. Right now, the contractor is working on some milling, excavation, and the installation of some stormwater piping and other utilities. We're still doing some ongoing coordination with Excel, but they're actually out there doing work as well, which feels like a big success in its own right. Right now, we're anticipating 133 total construction days. So if you start on August 18th, you can kind of project forward on that, but that's kind of towards the end of the year. And then we'll also be kicking off that fencing project I've mentioned a few times. That's going to contain the Southwest Development Area that'll kick off in the next couple of weeks as well. Any questions there? Unleaded fuel, relating back to the transition plan, we have the contractor who's working up their construction schedule. I understand a tank has been ordered and is being fabricated in Florida and will be headed our way at some point this fall or winter. And we will start the site preparation for where that tank is going in our bulk fuel facility, also later in September. So when we get more detailed information on, when that project can be complete, we'll start releasing those dates. Still targeted by at least the end of the year, if not sooner. And then concurrently, we've finished a request for proposals to select a fueling partner, and we're working on the contract with that FBO to work towards making sure we can actually take fuel from the tank and put it in planes. Any questions there?
How many companies build these tanks?
I do not know the answer to that. I think it's a pretty niche market.
Yeah.
Especially, I would think there's Buy America requirements because we're using a federal grant for this, so that might limit things even further. Part 150 airport noise compatibility study. We're still going through that background work in terms of operations forecasting and development of a land use map. I think we're nearly there with both of those. We expect to see kind of some draft operations forecasts here in the next week or coming up shortly. And then also same thing with that land use inventory, we'll be reviewing that. So ultimately, this is all leading to the development of those noise exposure maps that represents the first phase of the study. And with the new Airport Advisory Board members joining, I think in October, if not the November meeting, we're scheduling RSNH to come present to this group again, hopefully in November, to kind of give an update from their standpoint, better than I can do for you. So stay tuned on that one. If you have any questions on like what was shown at the open house, you can visit RMMA part150study.com or to provide comments to the study. I think there's sort of clarification. Is that coming up later? Okay. All right, Airport Advisory Board policy revision. You guys saw this last month. It's about mainly extending the term length to 3 years. That was briefed and then approved by the Board of County Commissioners actually on Tuesday. So starting with the next round of appointments, there will be longer term lengths. We should see no more 1 year term lengths basically. And then those other minor adjustments were also approved in that policy. Speaking of Airport Advisory Board appointments, we provided our recommendations on August 26th, and then appointments are scheduled for approval at the Jeffco Board of County Commissioners hearing on September 23rd. So it's a little weird in that we'll have not much notice to give the new members. I after that, before the next meeting in October, but that's when their term should start. So hopefully we're all up to speed in October.
Can I jump in? So we had talked about this earlier, so it didn't make it on the slide, but I would like to add onto our website. We have all of our minutes and our agendas posted, but we don't have your bios. So I'm asking if you could all email me a bio and a headshot so I could put your lovely faces there as well. Don't roll your eyes.
Raise my eyebrow.
So if you could email me, please, a bio and a headshot, and I will add that to our website, so it's available for anyone that's headed there to look at our minutes and the agenda packets to also see who's on the board. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Also,
Oh, great, public engagement. Okay, so I just wanted to recap on a few things that have happened since our last meeting. We had an open town hall on August 20th. It was here at the airport, just outside of this room. We have around 50 people attend. So if you remember, we're doing these quarterly. So the first one that we had planned in May, we had 15-ish people. And then in August, 50 people. Same format, we didn't change anything except for instead of 2 separate hours, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, we did 2.5 hours just in the evening. And saw more people. So I think we'll continue moving with that model as it helped. We started at 4:30. It just after people got off from work could just head here, and rather than trying to make it work during the day or a lunch hour. But same sort of setup where there wasn't a planned speech, just was able to walk around and look at our boards of information and ask questions and have conversations. Proved to be helpful, and we had a good turnout, better turnout. We also participated, this is what these photos are from, in the Louisville Labor Day Parade. We took our ARC truck out there. And so it was a great opportunity for us to engage with that community, and we are happy to be part of it. We'll also be part of the Broomfield Days Parade on September 20th in our ARC truck. Go to the next slide. And then we heard about it during earlier in the meeting during public comments. But at the end of August, we started responding to noise concerns via email. So it's a way for us to be transparent in our logging process and confirm with people that are telling us, yes, it is logged. All emailed noise concerns will receive an email at the end of each month notifying you that your concern was logged and then sharing information about FAQs and airport initiatives. It's just a letter that will be emailed back at the end of each month. And then I wanted to add a reminder here. So any comments regarding the Part 150 study that are being sent to our feedback@flyrmma.com email address need to have Part 150 study in the subject line. That's what triggers me to send it to RSNH to make sure it's part of the official public comment record. So we need to have Part 150 study in the subject line. I just don't want anyone to be sending something and they get missed. So that's just a way to make sure that I'm ensuring anything that you want to be shared with the group for public comment, public record, that is making its way there. And then we have an exciting event coming up. We're planning a fall carnival, October 18th, from 10 to 2 in our here at the airport in the terminal. It's geared toward kiddos. So we're gonna do root beer floats and paper airplane contest. You can look at the planes and our fire truck, and then we'll also be doing pumpkin painting. So we've done a couple of events or been part of some community events, but all geared towards adults. And this time it's geared towards the kids. We're super excited. So this is the first time we're kind of announcing we're doing this event, and I just want you guys to be the first to hear about it.
And CAP is doing our famous paper airplane stunt.
We're excited.
Yes.
Should be a fun time. That's what I got.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Oh, I want to add, a week from tomorrow, September 18th, Thursday, 7:00 p.m. here in this room. I'm going to be the Civil Air Patrol speaker, and I'm going to be talking about, is your brain ready to be a pilot? So I'm using my neuroscience background and talking about brains and flying. Anyone's welcome.
Thank you. And I think before we adjourn, set the date for the next meeting, is that correct? All right. So I have the October 8th, I believe,
Second Wednesday, yep.
second Wednesday, so it's October 8th, and good for everyone. Perfect. All right, we'll do that. Any other questions? All,
I have one thing I'd like to do if you guys don't mind.
sure, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I believe this will probably be my last meeting with the new appointees being appointed later this month and starting in October. And so I just wanted to say a few words about a couple things. One, as an elected official for a while here in the county, in the city of Arvada, how important our MMA airport is to our community and all the communities around. It's an economic driver, and the effects that happen not just at the airport, but the companies that serve the airport, and then the companies that provide materials that serve the airport. It's a very large ripple effect, and very important for our community in Arvada, and I think all the communities that surround the airport, even the ones to the north in Boulder County. And I want to compliment the airport and the airport staff for taking all the concerns that all residents have, regardless of where they live, whether they're in Jefferson County or Boulder County, and working hard to try to find solutions. You know, there's not solutions necessarily that everybody gets everything they want, and the airport continues to work tirelessly to come up with solutions to each and every problem and does a good job. And then for those within the aviation community, provide a safe, well-run airport, and particularly into the future will. And that's where I get to how important it is for you guys on the airport advisory board to, you're doing important jobs. The thing we talked about tonight about the RFP process for development, it's a rare thing to have an airport this close to a metro area with this much potential development. It's very important that it get guided well. And I know you guys are going to do a great job of that. And then lastly, I really want to thank Eric and Ben and the whole airport staff for helping me along all these years in my activities here at the airport. You guys have been just great always. And, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. One of my real revelations in getting to be an elected official is how competent and how hardworking city and county staffs are. And I think you guys really embody that. And I just want to say how lucky I have been to get to work with you guys. And, I'll miss being on this board, but I'll come up and see you sometime. So thank you. Thank you for indulging me and letting me make some parting words.
Well, thank you, John. I didn't realize this was your last meeting, but thank you for the service to this board over the past, I think, years now. All your insights and all your hard work that you've done over the past years. So I'm sure we'll miss you and your voice on this board, but yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Adjourned at 5:53. Thank you.
Does anyone else need my email address?